Hello, my beautiful intuitive ones. I am running late for my live. I apologize because I got locked in the car park at the after the lecture I went to today in Fremantle. So that was really funny. It was one of those car parks where you had to use your credit card at the actual boom gate. There's no machine to pay, and it confused the heck out of me. And it wouldn't accept my credit card, even though that's why apparently I confused the heck out of it too. So I sat there for quite some time. Had to keep putting it in and out, going, I'm going to be late. So I apologise. I was sitting there causing all kinds of havoc. It was good fun. Obviously, it was meant to happen. So I apologise. I'm here now. So I just wanted to dive in quickly to our Module 2 Q&A. Thank you for watching the replay or for joining me live if you managed to jump in. And I'm going to get straight into it. So I've just been to this incredible lecture all about inflammation and the science of earthing. Totally on topic. I booked into this months ago, and it's totally on topic and perfectly timed, divinely timed for our Module 2, which of course is all about grounding, soul embodiment and intuition. And so grounding is one of the key factors in Module 2 that we cover. And earthing is another word, although it's slightly different meaning, another word for grounding. So excuse me, I still have a bit of a cough, so I apologise for coughing. But I am going to just quickly touch on what I mean by earthing and grounding. And so I've spoken to you in depth in Module 2 about grounding. So if you aren't sure, do check back to the Module 2 masterclass. And they're used interchangeably in the wellness world. Earthing and grounding are used interchangeably. In the electrical science world, they're not used interchangeably. They actually mean relatively quite different things. They have a similar result in a way because it's connecting to the ground, connecting to earth. But it is grounding is putting a charged thing. This is my understanding. Grounding is putting a charged system directly onto the earth to ground it, and earthing is creating a zero potential charge throughout the whole system by putting a rod down into the earth to earth the current into the earth. So when it comes to us, we are a living, breathing water battery. So when we are this electromagnetic creature that's scientifically proven. Every cell within our body has an electromagnetic charge. Every atom within our body has an electromagnetic charge. Every organ, every part of us, our whole being has an electromagnetic charge and an electromagnetic field around us, which is measurable. And so so does our planet. Every living organism on our planet, including our plants, including our trees, including all our animals, all have an electromagnetic field around them. They're all living, breathing water batteries, just like us. And our planet is also a gigantic battery. And I actually wrote it down because I didn't know this information. It is that the Earth is a 6 sextillion cubic ton battery. That's how big a battery the Earth is. So it's got a giant electromagnetic charge. It's got heaving amounts of electron currents throughout the center, throughout the magma, the molten lava core. And what happens is that these electrons have like a free flow throughout the planet, come up to the surface, and the actual surface of the planet is negatively charged with free flowing electrons. And so when I talk about grounding and when I talk about earthing, so for me, I think of earthing as something that's to do with our electrical side. It's to do very much with our electrical body, and grounding is more about connecting in with the really elemental spiritual aspect of that earthing. So I see earthing as just a really purely physical, as in physics, the world of physics, a physical property where we can connect in and have a flow of free flow of electrons from the earth into our body, which helps to keep us negatively charged, which I'll talk more about that in a moment. So we have that free flow of electrons from the earth, which are freely available. They're there. That's why the earth has these free flowing electrons. It's one of its purposes, and I'll talk again more about that in a moment. And so we can connect in with the earth through direct contact, and that helps us to earth our charge, earth our current. Because what happens is, as we go about our day, we're surrounded by screens, we're surrounded by electrical charges, electrical current, because we live in an electric world now. 100, 200 years ago, there was none of that. It was candlelight and it was elbow grease that made those things work. So we didn't have the electrical charges and the electromagnetic fields that were around every single live cable that is around us now. And I look around me right now, and I have so many live cables with my lights, my microphone, my computer, even my lava lamp. What is it, the 70s? It's a salt lamp, Emma. So even that stuff, it all has that electromagnetic field around it because it's plugged into a current. And so all of these things create an effect on us, but not just that. We are insulating ourselves through our carpet, through our flooring, through our shoes, through our clothing, through our bitumen roads. They're all insulative. Concrete conducts, but pretty much nothing else does except for perhaps leather and water. Those things are very conductive. They're really good. Everything else is insulative or non-conductive. So we aren't allowing that free flow of electrons when there is an insulative layer between us and the planet. And so earthing is all about getting that direct flow of free-flowing electrons from the planet to create a zero charge system within our body so that we're not positively charged, so that we can get back to our balance with our electrons, because electrons are antioxidant. They are actually antioxidant. When we get into an electron deficient state, which is a thing, electron deficiency is a thing. Any type of electron deficiency state is actually a state of inflammation. And I'll talk about that in a second. Just put that over there. And so grounding, I see, is more of so my understanding, and this is purely from me, nothing from any lectures, any other books, I haven't found any research that supports this, but this is my experience of it, that we have control over the electrons within our body. We have control over that free flow of electricity throughout our body, but way deeper than that, our electromagnetic field is just our way of describing our spiritual field, is our way of describing our energetic body. We don't have the tools to measure what we can sense when we practice to sense these things, which what I work with every day. And I also sense that we can shift that flow of energy, shift that flow of electron current, if you like, if that's what you want to use, or just simply to shift and connect in with that flow of energy from the planet. We can do that with our intention, and we can do that with our practices of meditation. And so that's what I call grounding. That's us using our intention, not just using tools and time with contact, whilst doing other things and perhaps still scrolling in Facebook while our feet are on the bare earth. I see grounding as being a very intentional practice. Grounding brings spiritual focus and intention to earthing, and it supercharges the earthing effect. So, and we don't, to the point that we don't necessarily need to have our feet on the earth in order to ground. So just get your head around that one, because grounding is more powerful than earthing. They're used interchangeably, so you will see them used interchangeably in the wellness world. So just know that that's my take on it, because that's what I feel. That's what I feel. I feel the free-flowing energy. I feel when I connect in with the earth. I can be 50 stories up in a skyscraper in a hotel room surrounded by currents, and I can still feel when I've connected in with the earth energy. I can feel it. It shifts in my body and I realign. I can feel that. And so will you, if you aren't already. You may already feel that too, and you're going, yes, I can feel that too. And if you aren't, that's fine. It's something that comes with lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of practice. So just keep doing it, because it's working whether you feel it or not. Okay, that's really important for you to know. And so in this lecture that I went to, it was all about inflammation and the science of earthing. So very much about that contact time with the earth. And so what happens is that we get into this electron deficient state. So our body needs a free flow of electrons within its system. So electrons are, and I talk about the atom briefly in the masterclass as well. So in the center we have the nucleus, which is made from the positively charged protons and neutrons, which have no charge. So they're a cluster of neutrons and protons, and around that is a vacuum of space with orbiting, and this is obviously much bigger than an atom is. An atom is microscopic, nanoscopic. So around that nucleus of protons and electrons are protons and neutrons are negatively charged electrons orbiting, and they are very, very tiny. But what happens when we have a whole pile of atoms together is that And this is where I see the merging with the field of consciousness. So this is where I see how we are one with the field of consciousness, is that our electrons flow from one atom to another. We have the ability to flow our electrons. It's almost like we are a constant moving, evolving of creative juices. So these electrons can move and change and shift around, and our atoms change as a result, and our charge changes as a result, because an electron is negative charge. Wherever the electrons go, more negative charge goes. Negative charge is good. It's called negative, but it's good. So negative charge means antioxidants. It means healing properties. It means an increase in the flow of the fluids in that area. So, the decrease of blood viscosity. So the blood thickness goes down when there is a negative charge within the body, within the blood. And so because what happens is when those blood cells, red blood cells, are positively charged or aren't as negatively charged as they should be, they actually clump together. They kind of get sticky and they stick together, because negatively charged, they all sort of repel each other and they move along freely throughout the system, and they don't clump together. So that means our blood flows quicker and more freely, doesn't clump up, doesn't cause cardiovascular disease, doesn't get stuck, doesn't cause clots that go into our brain and cause a stroke, doesn't get clots that go into our heart and cause a heart attack. So that negative charge is incredibly important. That's just in our blood. That effect is in every fluid in our body. That effect is in every single cell in our body. And now the science is starting to show it, because they're studying it. And I can share with you lots of different studies. I can share with you lots of different references in proper, legitimate journals, which I will do after this live. So what that means is that earthing, where we have physical contact, and the studies are mostly on 30 minutes a day. So it doesn't mean that we need to live outside on the ground with bare feet all the time. What it means is that we need to have designated moments throughout the day where we connect in with the earth, because when we do, we not only get that flow of free-flowing electrons, which are the antioxidants, so we don't need to take supplements to have antioxidants. Yes, we can get them in our food, but they're actually far more powerful from the earth directly into our electromagnetic system. So they're more powerful. And in terms of our food, we can get electrons from our food. We can get that negative charge. The more negatively charged foods, the least negatively charged foods are processed foods, and going into some of the so sugar. Processed sugar is one of the least negatively charged. So that means that it's the most positively charged, which means it's going to cause the most inflammation in our body. And we go all the way through to fruits and vegetables, which are getting towards the most negatively charged or least positively, which means that they are the most antioxidant. They are the least inflammatory, and then the most anti-inflammatory. So they heal the inflammation. They don't cause the inflammation. And so absolutely most food, the highest quantity of electrons that we can get in our food source is in DHA. So that's the omega-3 fatty acids that we find in seafood. Even more so than the linoleic acid, I can't ever get that word right, type of omega-3. For those of you who've done nutrition and you've done lots of reading on omega-3s, or if you're vegan and you've researched getting it from hemp seeds and places like that, those are really good too, but they are not as concentrated in electrons as DHAs from seafood. So seafood is one of the highest forms. So particularly they call them bicuspids, the mollusks, that sort of stuff. They're very high in those as well. So anyway, that's an aside. So, but what earthing does for us when we get that concentrated time of having our feet on the planet, so our feet in the grass at lunchtime or swimming in the ocean is one great big mineral bath of conductivity with the Earth's electron field. So we, or walking on the beach, or walking on the earth. And of course, 100 years ago, we had dirt floors. My dad grew up in a house with dirt floors when he was a child. So it wasn't that long ago that people didn't wear shoes. He didn't have shoes until he was 7 or 8 years old. So that is what they did in the hills in Perth. It wasn't that long ago. Yes, I live in that kind of place. So it wasn't that long ago that we had dirt floors and bare feet for most of our lives until we were adults. So of course, everything has changed since then. And it's since the 60s when synthetic soles and it came into our shoes. We got rid of the leather thongs, we got rid of the leather shoes. We started wearing synthetic rubber, silicone, and we started changing everything about what we did. And all of that is insulative. None of that allows conduction through our feet into the ground. And of course, everything became bitumized over the last 100 years as well. And bitumen is not conductive either, whereas concrete is. And the various other building materials that were on the ground before that were often just dirt or compressed limestone, all relatively conductive compared to bitumen. Anyway, that's an aside. So what earthing does for our body in terms of inflammation is, and this is what the science shows, this is what multiple research studies that I can share with you show, is that it increases wound healing, it decreases blood viscosity, as I was saying before, so our red blood cells move much more freely in our system, which decreases our risk of cardiovascular events, decreases our risk of cardiovascular disease. We have a decrease in cytokines, white blood cells and other inflammatory response molecules within our system. So all of those are inflammatory markers, inflammatory molecules in our system. Those are all positively charged. Inflammation is a positive charge in an area. That means there's less electrons in that area. So to bring in more electrons decreases the inflammation almost, within, like measurably within a week, the inflammation is completely shifted, no matter how long it's been there. And I saw photos of a woman who had, she was an 84-year-old diabetic with an ulcer on her ankle that had been persistent for 8 months. And it was a nasty ulcer, and there was no sign of it healing in that 8 months. 2 weeks of half an hour a day with of earthing, using an earthing mat plugged into the wall, which is just as easy to actually go and put your feet on the ground. In fact, it's better. And the healing was visible, absolutely visible in her ankle. So the ulcer was completely shifted into a totally different state of healing, which it hadn't been at any point in those many months earlier with many medications. So it was quite visible, that change in the inflammatory markers, and of course it's measurable as well. And so there's increase in facial circulation that was measured as well. So we get a facelift. The more we earth throughout the day, we get more circulation, more plumping in the skin, in the face. We have improved sleep. We have decreased pain. We have increased energy, so the feeling of energy within our system to use. We have faster recovery and faster muscle recovery, also better muscle recovery after exercise. This is all tested as well. It also acts as a shield from electromagnetic radiation or electromagnetic field disturbance. So yeah, those of you who are really worried about the 5G rollout across the world, and we can talk more about this in detail another time, but one of the things we can do is to keep ourselves as often as possible in an earthed state. So, and at the very least, make time each day to go and spend half an hour with our feet on the earth with nothing in between. Because what it does is when we are in that earth state, when we are earthed, that electromagnetic field, that EMF radiation, rolls straight over us. It doesn't actually affect our biology. It doesn't sit in our biology. While we're earthed, it rolls over us and keeps moving. We are actually protected from it while we are in an earth state. And again, that's measurable. You can actually measure these with perfectly normal tools. What else was there? Oh, there's so much. It increases vagal tone. So our vagus nerve is the communicator between our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So, and I mentioned this about this nervous system. This is our fight, flight, or freeze response. I mentioned this in the Module 2 masterclass as well. And so the vagus nerve is the communicator between the two. It's the one that is basically the switch. That's not exactly what it is, but that's how it functions. It's a feedback system, a feedback loop throughout the nervous system. And that vagus nerve actually acts like the switch between the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, and freeze, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest, digest, and heal. When we're in fight and flight, we cannot heal. Just can't happen. We're not in the state to heal. When we are in rest and digest, that's the state to heal. So if we are in a state of vagus nerve burnout, which can happen, then we stay flipped on with our a sympathetic nervous system. We stay fight, flight, or freeze for all things. All things are stimulating us in that way, and we are unable to switch back into that healing state. And so they can measure our vagal tone, and that is the higher the vagal tone, the better. With the higher the vagal tone, the more ability we have to switch from that hypervigilant, that sympathetic nervous system state, that fight, flight, and freeze. The quicker we can switch that down into rest and digest, that parasympathetic state. And so that's increased vagal tone. That's really good. We want that. We want to be able to switch it off. We want to switch off fight and flight as quickly as we can after it's activated. We want it to activate, of course, because we want to be able to respond to our environment when there's something dangerous around us. But we want to be able to switch it off. And so so we want to be able to have increased vagal tone. And one of the things that earthing does measurably is it increases our vagal tone, which is measured through our heart rate variability, which I also talk about in the Module 2 masterclass. So our heart rate variability increases when we are in an earthed state and when we practice earthing every day. So it increases our vagal tone, so it improves our ability to switch our fight and flight and freeze response off and go into rest and digest. The more days we spend with feet on the earth, the better. And in fact, there's no limit to how good it can be. Half an hour is better than none. 5 minutes is better than none. Half an hour is better than 5 minutes. 12 hours is better than half an hour. 24 hours is better than 12. So we're designed to be in physical contact with our earth all the time. We are designed to have that. So there are things that you can get called earthing mats, and you can have earthing pads. But the best thing you can do is to actually put your feet on the ground. But you can research some of those things. You can even get a mat that, this lecture, they didn't sell any of this stuff. There was no financial benefit for them to tell us any of this, but you can get a sleeping mat as well that can go on your bed so that you can be earthed while you sleep for that 8 hours a night, so that you're spending a large chunk of every day being earthed naturally while you sleep, which of course is our time when we heal the most. Sleeping is our time to heal. So I'm going to go and research those because I think that's a fascinating idea. I have heard of some of my friends and clients have used them as well, so I'm quite interested in them. If you have any experience with them, pop it in the comments because I'm quite interested, and I'm sure everybody else here would love to hear about your experience with earthing mats or earthing pads. But as I said, the best thing you can do is to go and put your feet on the ground. And the next best thing you can do is to stay hydrated, because we are a battery. We want to keep water in the battery. So you need to not just practice one of these things. Go and put your feet on the ground, yes, but putting your feet on the ground means nothing if you're dehydrated, if you're stressed, if you are malnourished or you're eating processed sugar, all of that stuff. You won't get the benefits because the battery won't be working. You won't be able to absorb the electrons and move them through your system, put them up into your brain, which of course is up here. It's a long way away from the ground unless you lay down or immerse yourself in water, salty water, and ideally at the beach where you're connected to the planet. So when you want to find your earthing opportunities every day, make time for it. I make time between clients to go out and put my feet on the lawn, weather permitting. It's generally pretty good weather here in Perth, so that's all good. Then hydrate as much as you can, because that hydration also reacts with sunshine. So that's the third thing to do, is get in the sun, because the sun actually increases our conductivity and changes the way that our electrons flow throughout our system, changes the way the water then behaves within our system, and increases our flow of free flow electrons and antioxidants, natural antioxidants throughout our system, which decreases our inflammation and has all of those other awesome benefits that I spoke about just previously. And then you might want to think about things like earthing mats and that sort of stuff. That extra paraphernalia is great. All that kit is awesome, but we don't need it. We're not designed to have it. We're designed to be on our planet. We've become so far removed from our planet that we have almost forgotten our roots. We've almost forgotten where we come from. So I invite you to start to rediscover what it is we're designed for, because our physiology, both metaphysical and physical, is designed to be in contact with our planet. It's designed to eat foods as close to nature as possible. It's designed to sleep really well. It's designed to sleep with other people. It's designed to be close, physically close to other humans. We're not designed to be isolated and staring at a screen. We're not designed to be Netflixing all night instead of sleeping. We're not designed to be eating processed sugar. We're not designed to be drinking alcohol in copious quantities by ourselves. We're not designed to be alone. We're not designed to be alone. We are like chickens, and we're flock animals. We like to flock together because of safety. You know, that's actually why we are designed that way initially. But we also get a lot from that free flow of energy between each. Sorry, I just knocked my microphone. That free flow of energy between each other is a part of our grounding as well. Obviously, it depends on the energy of the people you're around, because you can absorb some of that. If they are ungrounded, very ungrounded, and living very much in yesterday and tomorrow in their stories, then that can be very toxic to our system, energetically speaking and emotionally. But what I want to speak about now is the planet, because one of the hot topics in medical intuition is all about the environment, all about grounding, and all about our influence on climate change, our influence on the environment and our planet. And I wanted to really touch on that today, because I feel that a lot of what goes on is fear-mongering out in the world. But I also would like to give you my viewpoint from what I experience in my work with the planet itself, what I experience with what I see from other people as well. And so I mentioned in one of my other videos that we can use trees to help us ground, because trees and humans live in a symbiotic relationship. So the trees give out carbon dioxide. That's what, the trees take in carbon dioxide. That's their food. That's what nourishes them. And they need it to thrive. They need it to survive. And then they give out their waste gas, which is oxygen. And that's just what they need to get rid of to keep their system in balance. Humans, on the other hand, need oxygen to survive. And we take that oxygen that's out the waste gas from our plants and trees, and we turn it into carbon dioxide, which is exactly what they need to thrive. And then we release that into the planet. We excrete that back into the atmosphere, and the trees and plants go through that same cycle again, and we just keep rebreathing each other's gas. Which sounds strange, but that's actually what's happening. Scientifically, that's what's happening. And so we are living in a symbiotic relationship. Without us, they don't thrive. Without them, we don't thrive. It works both ways, but energetically, it's the same. So we thrive when we're surrounded by plants and trees, and they thrive when they're surrounded by humans who respect them and love them for the symbiotic relationship that they have, the support that they offer us. And so the more far removed we've gotten from our environment, where some people never even see plants and trees except for maybe on TV, some never see where their food comes from, some never realize that their meat comes from an animal, some never realize that eggs come out of the back end of a chicken, some never realize that milk even comes from a cow, and chocolate milk doesn't come from a brown cow. And there's no judgment here. It's just that we as a people have become so far removed in general, particularly in the first world population, from our environment, from where we've come from our roots. Very, very quickly that's happened. Over the last 100 years, that's happened. And so some people stay in the concrete jungle. Some people stay in multi-story buildings. Some people never get down to the ground more than once or twice a week. And if they do, it's not to be in a place of nature. It's to go into another building. So it may be that many people never actually do touch the earth, and they don't understand the connection because they no longer feel it. They no longer sense it. It is there. The more we practice it, the more we sense it. But similarly to the trees and the plants, that symbiotic relationship that the trees and plants have with humans, the earth energetically has a symbiotic relationship with humans. Yes, what we do in terms of our pollution, in terms of our waste, all of that stuff, yes, that affects the earth negatively. But energetically, the more we ground, the more we practice grounding, that intentionally drawing our energy down into the earth to merge with the planet in the earth chakra. So the earth chakra is in every single one of our meditations. I may not talk about it in that way, but that's exactly what we connect into when we go beneath the feet. So when we go beneath the feet, we're connecting into the point where our field merges with the earth's field. And that is our earth chakra. That is not our physiological chakra. That is a chakra beneath our feet where we connect in and ground with the earth. And that is when we connect in with that intentionally, when we take time to practice taking our consciousness down to that point and building with our breath and with our energy, that connection with the earth at that point, we're actually nourishing the planet. We are nourishing the planet. We are that powerful. The planet needs us to be grounded. The more ungrounded we get as a people or as a human race, the more starved and deprived our planet is getting energetically. It's showing it physically because we are getting more ungrounded. And of course, the more ungrounded we get, the more choices we make that don't serve our planet and don't serve the environment. Because anyone who knows they've spent time in nature, I mean, there's a beautiful place down south with these incredible trees here in Western Australia where they are massive, ancient trees. And you just need to spend a day in those trees to know that you would never want to cut one down, that they are very sacred, that there is an incredible energy there, and that they are earth keepers. They are warriors of our planet. They are here for a purpose. Each one of them is a being, a conscious being. And we only need to spend that time in that place for a short time to have that deep connection, to feel it, to feel deeply connected. And the more removed we get, we lose that connection. So our choices change. We start to choose things that affect our planet quite negatively. And so the more time we spend grounding and practicing grounding, which, you know, is a really big juicy part of this module, the more we are nourishing our planet, the more effect we have on the climate, the more positive effect we have on our climate, the more positive effect we have on our environment, and the more positive effect we have on those around us to begin to be able to connect in with the earth. The more we ground, the more we enable others around us to ground, because we are like a grounding or earthing rod into the planet. So the more we practice it is of deep service, not only to other humans around us, but deep service to our planet. And of course, the added bonus is that that service moves through you. You are served very deeply by that grounding as you are serving the planet and those around you. So it is a very sacred, very divine practice. And it's incredibly scientific, and it serves your body on a health level in so many ways that it's almost impossible to count how many ways. They've just studied only a handful of them, and they are mind-boggling, to the point that one of the studies that I saw today said that earthing is the simplest and most profound intervention to help reduce cardiovascular risk and cardiovascular events in humans. And which is, I mean, that's a scientific study in a scientific journal. I thought that was incredible to be able to put it in those words. Simplest and most profound intervention for cardiovascular disease. Earthing, putting your feet on the earth. It's that simple, and it has the biggest effect, more so than medication. So like, that's just insane. It's crazy, and yet so simple. What seems insane, because that's the thing, we've been conditioned as a people to look at that person, that guy that's barefoot roaming around on the grass, that's perhaps, you know, bearded and long haired, and we look at him and go, he's a bit crazy. He probably doesn't have his share portfolio sorted out. He maybe doesn't have a home. He's probably a bit of a, you know, a loose cannon. We don't know. But we make these preconceived judgments about people who practice earthing visibly, who actually are quite happy to do it openly. Whether or not they're doing it for the same reasons that I'm talking about today is unknown. But we are conditioned to think that crazy people put their bare feet on the earth, or people who aren't brought up well, or people who are homeless. We may think these things. These are judgments. They're not real. Then none of those are factual. So I invite you to question your judgments around being barefoot in public. I invite you to question. My mum would be horrified. Oh my goodness. I invite you to question your judgments around the people you do see walking barefoot out in the world. And I invite you to start to go, this is an interesting conditioning. Where did this conditioning come from? How has it infiltrated me? Because we are built to be barefoot on the earth. It's how we're made. Somewhere along the line there, it was conditioned into us to not be that way. So I invite you to question that conditioning very deeply, because it's not serving you. It doesn't mean that we need to necessarily be barefoot all the time. I went out to do some grounding last week, went barefoot, cut my foot on some glass because our glass table smashed in a storm a couple of weeks ago, and there's still tiny shards hiding between the paving. But still, you know, I bled into my grass and I still felt quite connected. That was okay. I got the glass out. But, you know, so there are times when it's not safe for us to have bare feet. or when it's too cold. You know, if you live in Canada, yeah, in winter you do not want to be barefoot there. Trust me, you don't want to be bare anything there. You barely can get your eyeballs out enough to be able to see your way through 10 minutes of walking in the snow because it's so cold. So, you know, there are times when it's not safe, but there are ways around that. There are ways that we can still connect in with the earth, and that's where the earthing mats come in. They're just plugged into the earth port in the PowerPoints. It depends if you're in a country that has earthing in your PowerPoints as well. Some countries don't have them, but it's just simply, it's not electrical, it's not an electrical device, it just plugs into an already connected earth point with a rod down into the ground. But again, the simplest thing you can do is put your feet on the ground, so you don't have to go buy anything. Just set aside that time each day to go outside and put your feet on the ground. But more importantly than that, bring your intention to the practice and make it sacred, because that is what supercharges it. Bring your intention to your energy, to your breath. Draw your energy down into that point beneath your feet where you feel. If you don't feel it yet, don't worry, keep doing it. It's still working. But where you feel your energy field connect in with the greater field of our planet. That is the point at which you will recharge. That is the point at which you will heal. That is the point at which you will take all of your things that you can let go of, all of your illness, all of your sickness. You can allow it to go into the earth, because the earth is actually here to take that for you. That's one of its purposes here. It is a being, it is a conscious being, just like we are. Not exactly the same, but it has a purpose just like you do. And one of the purposes is to support us to heal. It's measurable. The healing effect is literally measurable. It changes our physiology in a measurable way to put our feet on the earth. So we need to be doing it more. And so that is something, that's my invitation to you today, is to find a way to get your feet on the earth every day, and bare feet, not shoes, not rubber thongs, bare feet on the earth every day. And even if it's just half an hour, even if that's, 3 10-minute lots in between clients, whatever that may look like for you, make sure you get it done. Don't allow the day to go by without putting your feet out on the lawn. And that's what I'm going to go and do next. If you have any questions about this topic at all, or about Module 2, please do post them in the comments. I will continue to answer them. But I just wanted to answer that because I know some of you may follow some of the other medical intuitives in the world. And I know that, so for instance, Belinda Davidson's recently started talking about the earth chakra as a new chakra. It's not new, it's been around for a really long time. That's why it's been in all of my practices. It's been a point of difference of my teaching and hers for a long time, actually. So I'm really pleased for her that she's embracing it, because the thing that happens when we disconnect from that earth point, from that point at which our field connects with the earth, is that we become very ungrounded. We become very disconnected, and even when we can go into our lower chakras, into 1, 2 and 3, then we are still managing to perhaps be in our body, but we aren't grounding our energy and earthing our energy into the healing planet. And what that does is it gives us an anchor point to raise consciousness from. If we focus entirely on raising consciousness, and going up into our higher chakras above our head, taking ourselves up into heaven without having an anchor, we put ourselves at huge risk of having seizures, of having migraines, of having the like psychedelic and psychosis events, having anxiety and depression, having mental illness. So those psychotic events can be a really big thing. A lot of people have experienced those after the types of meditation that can raise your consciousness really, really quickly, without being grounded already, without already having a grounding practice and being grounded and knowing how to ground themselves again after that practice, having an anchor to come back to know how to find their way home. I recently had a neurological event myself, and I can absolutely say, yes, absolutely, I was very ungrounded at that point, because I've been working 7 days a week, which is totally against my usual practice. I have very strict boundaries around my work normally. I normally restrict it to certain days a week, and then I have other days that are designated definitely non-work days, because that is how I ground. My work is very ungrounding, and so I need to ground in between my work days. I need to have designated days in which I spend time with my family outdoors doing usual stuff like gardening or, roaming around markets, that sort of thing that is very, very grounding. Time at the beach, time with friends, stuff that brings us back into our body, brings us back into our 3D, and allows us to put our feet on the earth and ground. And that I was not having time to do because I was throwing myself into various aspects of my work at that point. And yes, absolutely, I did have some kind of seizure. And I'd never had that before. So that was something that was very interesting to me, and a really big lesson that I was spending too much time here and not enough time with my feet on the earth and drawing down the moon, drawing down heaven into the body, drawing down, not building up, drawing down, because that's just as important, if not more so, than raising the consciousness, because raising consciousness can happen anyway. It's really the earthing and the grounding that is such a powerful impact on our body and on our soul journey as well. That's a little bit of my story there. So if you do have any questions, do pop them in the chat box and I will do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I'm excited that we're moving into module 3. I will give you some more information about module 3 on Monday. And I hope that this has been really interesting for you, because it's such an interesting topic, and I could talk for a very long time about all the wonderful things I've learned today, but also a lot of it was really just reaffirming. And something, actually, one thing I want to share with you right before I go is that those electrons aren't just electrons that we get from the earth. It's not just about the electrons. It's not just about the electricity. They carry with them information. So what happens is that and there's a few studies that show this, but that there's information that is carried when we put our feet on the earth. It changes our circadian rhythm. So our circadian biology within our cells, so each of our cells has this circadian clock that's built in. It's information that tells our cells when it's night, when it's day, when to sleep, when to be awake, when to stimulate the stress hormones, when to stimulate the melatonin and the sleep. There's a whole process that our body goes through. It's a biological clock within our system that tells our body how to function and stay within the rhythm of our local earth, our local planet, our local environment. And the more time we have contact with our feet on the planet, on the actual bare earth, the more information we actually take in about our local circadian rhythm. So we are more able to connect in with the nighttime in our local environment. We're more able to connect in with the daytime in our local environment, so we can cope better with daylight saving changes. We can cope better with travel, especially air travel, because that's incredibly disorientating and it's incredibly ungrounding for obvious reasons. We're taken well away from the ground. We're whizzed through at a rate of knots, and that really that rapidly shifts our electron charge as well, our electric charge of our body. As you know, I don't know if you know, but planes become very charged as they fly through the air because of static electricity moving past all of the air particles. Anyway, so we then have to ground that. We need to earth that into the ground, because we actually are carrying a charge. We need to make it zero again. We need our body to go back to zero. And to do that, we need to take in the electrons from the earth. We become positively charged, which is an inflammatory state, even though it's mild. And any tissue damage in our body has a positive charge. So any cut, any graze, any bruise, any bacteria, any of those things, they have a positive charge. And so then the inflammatory response comes in, pulls in all the proteins, brings in even what they call it's a storm of I can't think what the word is. It's with the oxidative stress storm. So we either get in all of these oxidative particles to come in and basically dissolve the bacteria, dissolve all of the tissue damage, dissolve everything, and then clear it away. But that's positively charged. So then to speed that whole process up, because you want all of that to clear away really fast, you want to bring in the negative charge again, which is where the electrons come in, which are negatively charged. So that they change and shift it to that negative charge. So the more we have that contact with the earth, the more we have that negative charge through our body. So we have that anti-inflammatory effect. So if you travel, short answer to a really long story, if you travel, get your feet on the ground when you get there, because you're getting not just the electrons and the grounding and earthing and really taking your energy back into your body and getting yourself back together, pulling in all the pieces of you that have been spread across the earth. You're also getting the information from your local area that you've landed in about the circadian rhythm of that part of the world. So the planet actually communicates with you when it's nighttime, communicates with you when it's daytime. Your cells take in all that information with the electrons that move in, and they are then able to function better. So you get a lot less jet lag. The more you spend time barefoot in your new location, the less jet lag you will have. So I thought you'd find that really interesting if you're a traveller. Anyway, that's enough for now. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you've watched the replay, thank you for making it this far. You're a legend. Put any questions down there in the comments, and I will pop in next week with some more information about Module 3. I'm so excited. It's one of my favourites. Bye. Enjoy your weekend.